with Russia that never existed, and they've glommed onto it again over a phone call between President Trump and the president of the Nancy Pelosi signed on to the idea of impeachment yesterday because of what was in the transcript of a call that she, of course, hadn't read yet. Adam Schiff, you know him, he said that there was a quid pro quo with the president of Ukraine, and that was a good reason for impeachment. The president of Ukraine said today on live television, sitting right next to President Trump, that was today, that there was no quid pro quo. That, he said, he doesn't need a quid pro quo. A little over 13 months away. Is this going to drag on for that long? I say let's go for it. Impeach him or shut up. The Democrats haven't gotten the votes, and they don't have the guts to go for the actual I word yet, it doesn't seem. I mean, go for it. This has all been one more great lesson in why the swamp needed to be drained and why you should be in favor of having all of the people in Washington, on both sides for that matter, you should be in favor of them having as little to do with what happens in your life as possible. Meanwhile, the Democrats who are running for president, and they're still out there, you haven't heard much from them because of all this Ukraine stuff, but those people who are running for president want to have a lot more to do with your life. Which doctor you go to, what you eat, what you drive, how you travel, and that includes Bernie Sanders. Did you see what Bernie Sanders said the other day? Yesterday, I guess he said it, on Twitter. He said that there should be no such thing as a billionaire. In our second half hour today, we're going to talk to an expert on taxes and federal spending about what an idiot Bernie actually is and how ridiculous his wealth tax idea is. And Elizabeth Warren and impeachment with a senior editor from The Federalist, David Harsanyi. We'll do that right after this. Stick around.
Well, so many of us know Haiti as a poor country. What you may not understand is they are in the grip of a humanitarian crisis.
I'm John Steigerwald with Food for the Poor's Anitra Parmalee on the humanitarian crisis in Haiti.
It's almost a perfect for food for their children. I met mothers who hadn't been able to feed their children for 2-3 days, where access to water was an hour walk up a mountain, and it no bathing, little cooking. The only water you have is for survival.
You can literally change this today. Just $80 will provide one child food for a year and water for life. $320 can do the same for an entire family. Call 855-358-4673 today and help us. 855-358-HOPE.
Regenerate me.
Regenerate me.
Please regenerate me.
Why suffer with joint pain? There's a new that offer advanced biological therapies, also known as ABT. A full recovery without surgery or drugs is possible. Get a complete diagnostic review, plus your first treatment for just 1-851-3811.
If you're worried about market volatility or the possibility of losing money in the next market crash, the time to act is now. All-time highs and a highly contested election cycle right around the corner, we have an opportunity now to protect what's important. Don't risk losing a significant portion of your life savings in the next market downturn. Call Hunt & Associates today, 844-366-HUNT. That's 844-366-4868.
Homeowners love their Pella windows and doors, and we love how happy we made Susan from Sewickley.
It's Susan Wallet. I just have to tell you, this bay window is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's fantastic. It really is beautiful.
$500 off doors or 48 months no interest. Call for your free consultation. We'll come to you. Call 888-78-PELLA, PellaPittsburgh.com.
It's time to stand with Israel. Stand with Israel tour this December 2nd through 11th. More than a vacation, this journey will guide you through centuries of as you visit iconic and participate. Together with like-minded travelers, you'll see over 40 iconic sites during in the Dead Sea and take a boat out onto the water of the Sea of Galilee. Have you Israel tour this December 2nd through 11th. Just go to our website for more details and registration information at the Answer PGA.
People focusing on a natural, holistic approach for human and animal wellness. Host Dr. Edmund Solkowski and his guests discuss various topics of health and wellness for us and our companion animals. Airs each Saturday live from 9 to 10 in the morning on 12:50 a.m. The Answer, giving you the opportunity to call in with your questions. A healthy pet is a happy pet, and being healthy makes people happy. Tune in, listen, learn, be well.
The John Steigerwald.
Well, the news is still breaking on the Ukraine, who said he wasn't pressured to do anything and there was no quid pro quo, but the Democrats aren't backing off. Even Mitt Romney. David Harsanyi is a senior editor at The Federalist, and he says the Twitter mob might have played a role. The headline on your piece, Nancy Pelosi surrenders to the Twitter mob. Is that where we are? Is that what happened now?
Well, I mean, I guess my case is that there's a bubble, that a lot of journalists live in and other political class people who live in D.C., they live in this bubble, and they are sure that moving forward with an impeachment is the correct thing to do. They convicted Donald Trump the day he was elected and want to overturn the results of that election. At this point, I think Americans do not want to go down this road, but I think that's helpful for her, and I think that pressure.
Anything today? Lots of stuff happening today to change your mind about any of the...
It's absurd that every time he says anything that they dislike or find, objectionable, they immediately power in ways that most presidents have never done. And I don't think I ever brought up the word impeachment once in 8 years of writing about him.
Yeah, and do you think that that might be a little bit different? Do you think the media might just switched, and the former Bernie and Elizabeth. Anyway, Nancy said she was down with an impeachment inquiry before she read the transcript that came out today. You think that may be based on what she's getting from the media?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, she based her position on what was reported that Donald Trump 8 times in this conversation, pushed the Ukrainian president, whose name escapes me right now, to investigate Biden. Well, it turns out there was only one time he did that, and it was much more subtle and far less dramatic than the news report had laid out. You'd think they would have learned their lesson after the Russia collusion stuff, where so many stories were misleading and wrong, but they didn't. So before she ever saw the transcript, before she saw the whistleblower's report, she decided to say that what Trump had done was an impeachable offense. And that's fine. You know what? In general, in general, I'm not against impeachment. You want to impeach presidents? Go ahead. Keep them honest. But we all know that these standards are only going to be applied to Republicans and never to Democrats, and that's the real problem here.
And I'm beginning to think that the word impeach or impeachment is approaching the word racism as the most overused and devalued word in the English language right now.
Well, I mean, they've been wanting to impeach Donald Trump from the beginning. You have progressives saying that he should be impeached right when he was elected because they claimed he stole the election. We went through 2 years of hysterical stories about interfered with the election, which intimates that, they somehow made someone vote in a way they didn't want to. None of that's true. Donald Trump has and listen, some of it's his fault, obviously. The way he speaks is not what we're used to and all of that stuff, but we've created it's just silly nation, silly town where I live in D.C.
Yeah. And I think yesterday it was Alexandria overrated Cortez during this interview that I saw in the hallway somewhere yesterday. And then she threw in that, she doesn't like his policies, which is another good reason to impeach him. You don't like his policies, so let's just get rid of him. They wouldn't want to do that in an election.
Right. I mean, exactly. I think that the prescription here, if you don't like how Donald Trump speaks, is to vote against him, in 2020, and that's the correct way to do it. But the truth of the matter is that I think that politics has become so tribal for many good reasons, to be honest, that I don't think a lot of minds are going to be changed by this impeachment thing. I think you'll see the normal partisan split on everything. And, people, when they vote, are going to think about the competing values. Donald Trump is problematic for a lot of people in many ways, but in the end, he's not a socialist. He's going to stand up for the things that they like in general, and that's how people vote. And that's probably what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was talking about inadvertently.
Yeah, you write in your piece today, and we're talking to David Harsanyi of The Federalist, the senior editor there. You write in your piece, in Twitter politics, there's no political or professional price exacted from those perpetuating conspiracy theories. How is that? I guess that's a huge difference in what was going on pre-Twitter.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, was it really different? I mean, I think sometimes we romanticize the past in the sense that, we had 3 stations when I was a kid, giving us all our news. Who even knows, if there had been bloggers and tweeters at the time, if they wouldn't have been pointing out all the mistakes and biases of those people. But clearly now we have, this Russia story went on. People were perpetuating it on social media, and a lot of people, even the debunked stories, they still believe them. And then, it turned out basically not to be true. And next day we just moved on like nothing had ever happened. I mean, no one was fired. No one explained why they were wrong. It did not matter because it's all this hysteria is driven by partisanship, and you can't tell what's serious or not serious anymore. Like, even if I thought Donald Trump was wrong or I thought he should be impeached for what he did, I would have a very hard time believing the media reports about this story to begin with. So they've created this environment where we can't believe anyone.
Yeah, you made an interesting comment there about people being fired, and I've been wondering this, and it's a little bit off the track what we're talking about here, but people being held accountable for being really, really wrong about something for a really, really long time, like they were at CNN and MSNBC. And I worked in TV for a long time, and when you had bad ratings, really, really bad ratings, people lost their jobs. The management people lost their jobs, and the people whose mugs really get too much further down the toilet in the ratings than they are right now. And nobody's fired, from management all the way down to lowest
weird spot in a sense. You have MSNBC, where obviously people are much more open about their biases. I think that in a weird way, people respect that they're open about their biases. CNN, you just love to hate them, and the small ratings they do get really flow through that because most people just want an honest assessment, or they just want to go somewhere where they hear what they want to hear. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I don't know what kind of ratings they need to actually make money, because in the end of the day, that's what it's about. So maybe they have enough to generate some kind of profit.
Wonder if CNN and the people working there the people there have survived this. What would it take to get somebody other than Wolf Blitzer as their guy during prime news time during the afternoon and evening? It's amazing to me.
Yeah, and it's not, and there's probably a lot of people you have, rich people in big cities, them who maybe spend money or whatever it is, but trust factor, a lack of trust factor going on as well with that station.
Yeah, it might have something to do with viewers dropping off. They keep. And you mentioned that a little bit a minute ago about Twitter and how that affects everything, but themselves to be overly affected by what they see on Twitter.
I'm sure that they do, and I'm sure that I do as well. I mean, that's the world I live in a sense, where I get my news flow, where I see what the temperature is, and things like that. So it's important to try to bring it back into the real world sometimes, which I try to do. You speak to your family, whenever you go out and meet your friends who aren't so obsessed with politics, and you see how they look at things. So the non-Twitter voter, I suspect, is far less interested in getting involved in another another melodrama that's convoluted about Ukraine and this and that than Nancy Pelosi suspects. Though, I mean, I think that there are people who hate, world. It seems more likely that Trump voters are going to be excited to, going to be worked up, want to defend the president from what they see as an unfair, another investigation.
Yeah, that was my next question, David. Is it time for the Democrats to impeach or get off the pot? Or is a long, dragged-out fight better?
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical, actually, that they're actually going to go through with a full House vote impeachment. There are, there's really no precedent for this kind of impeachment. When Clinton was impeached, it was in his second term, so we don't know how he would have done if he ran again, etc. But I think they're going to have to see how it goes. Obviously, they have the whole media on their side. You're not going to get any kind of fair stories about this, so people are going to have to make up their own minds on it. But I don't know. It's hard to tell how things work out. Voters are fickle and so on. But I don't know. I don't know that it's enough for another election, which I think is an important anyway, which would be pretty wild.
That'd be great.
I mean, that's one factor, and I also think people are more partisan today in the sense that they. And thirdly, I think that there's far less trust in their minds as well. But obviously, there are a bunch of people who don't pay attention to politics or get angry about something and go vote for the other guy.
I just wonder too.
Pretty baked into the.
Peters in Washington.
The complaint is said to include
Correspondent Wally Hines. President Trump at a press conference says he wants openness.
We were going to do this anyway, but I've informed them the so-called whistleblower information, even though it was
Oxford Club Chief Investment Strategist Alex Green. Alex told us the company's landing massive deals, including $450 million with Nokia, $395 million with Microsoft, 50,000 jobs in America this year. And Alex has now declared this $3 expects the stock to rise this year.
Paid for by Oxford Club.
Hugh Hewitt sees the media grasping at straws again.
All of the talking heads switched from Russia to racism after the Russia Mueller probe fell apart. Then they switched from racism to Ukraine because they're just desperate to get a handhold on Trump, and they keep slipping off of everything. They can't hold on to anything.
The Hugh Hewitt Show, weekday mornings at 6, right before Mike Gallagher at 9.
Chevrolet. This month, you could qualify for 18% off the MSRP on select models of the all-new redesigned 2019 Silverado pickup. That's over $9,300 in savings on select Silverado double cab all-stars. The team at Calusi has been serving Pittsburgh for over 100 years, so you can buy with confidence. Check them out at Calusi.com. Find new roads at Calusi Chevrolet.
This is Jay Hagerman of Abernathy & Hagerman. Upon your passing, you wouldn't want a judge to decide who raises your children or how your estate gets divided. It is important to review your estate planning documents to ensure they protect what matters most. At Abernathy & Hagerman, we will work with you to establish an estate plan that nominates a guardian for your minor and that your assets are used for your family's benefit. Judge for yourself. For legal help that lasts a lifetime, visit a-h.law.
now is in full bloom in Pennsylvania, but a study by the Allegheny Institute for Public Policy suggests that if the limited data available from the first of the two groups is any indication, there hasn't been any rush by employees, new or old, to embrace defined contribution plans. And even with reform, some school taxes continue to rise. Learn more about this and other topics at AlleghenyInstitute.org, where conventional thinking has been challenged every day since 1995.
Pittsburgh homeowners rate Pella #1 as a leading window brand. Susan wrote, "We are thrilled with our new Pella windows and door. The installation process was superior to any other work we've had done in the past. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts." Wow, thank you, Susan. Low pressure consultation plus expert installation. At Pella, it's just what we do. Right now, save $150 off windows and $500 off doors or 48 months no interest. Call 888-78-PELLA, PellaPittsburgh.com.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 58. For tomorrow, we'll see a shower in some spots during the morning. More clouds than sunshine for the rest of the day. Then for Friday, a blend of sunshine and clouds, a nice afternoon, 79 degrees. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Danielle Niddle.
Well, everybody's talking about the Ukraine and impeachment today, which means we're getting a little break from the stupidity that's been coming from the lunatics running for the Democratic nomination for president. And nobody is more of a lunatic than Bernie Sanders. He hates the rich. He hates the idea of anyone being rich. And he wants to tax wealth, not just the wealthy, wealth, to pay for all that free stuff he's been promising. Adam Michel is a senior policy analyst on the federal budget and tax policy at the Heritage Foundation, and he joins us now. Adam, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
So what does Bernie have in mind when he says there should be no such thing as a billionaire, which he tweeted yesterday, by the way?
He wants to tax people, wealthy people, until they look like everyone else. He wants to remove the incentive for people to make new products and innovate and bring new things to market.
Well, does he really want to do that, or is he just too dumb to know that that's what will happen?
You know, when you are so blatant about saying there should be no more very wealthy people, I would hope that he knows that there has to be economic consequences to what he is proposing. But ultimately, what he's talking about is levying a tax on total accumulated wealth, which is very different than an income tax. It's similar to assessing the death tax or the estate tax, not once a lifetime, but every single year.
Yeah, and we all know how the government taxes our income, and it took a constitutional amendment to allow the federal government to do that. But taxing already accumulated wealth,
somehow building wealth at whatever level is something not to be admired, and I think that's the real big problem here with the discussion that's being had. It's
have an element of people who have all this money somehow came about it. An element of people who have all this money somehow came about it.
Of the politics of envy. It's I can use the coercive powers of the government to sort of flip the tables and wonder why it's not. Seems like that is we should also sort of confiscatory levels of taxation.
And Bernie's plan, starting at people who have a wealth of $32 million, I think, and taxing that at 1%. $2 million business. That sounds like a pretty good business, but low it seems.
Yeah, or maybe you have a family farm, and that's and the land has a high value, but you're working it every day in order to make income, and that's really the difference here. It's not about what you earn off of those assets you have. It's taxing. It's actually taxing the assets itself, and sort of one way to illustrate this is if you have a 3% wealth tax on the entire stock of wealth, and it has a relatively low return, so you're only earning 3 or 4% a year off of your stock of wealth. That wealth tax is equal to a 100% income tax on top of in addition to all the other income taxes we have, and so it would ultimately require small and medium-sized businesses to liquidate their assets in order to pay the government, which means all the people that are employed by those businesses would no longer have jobs, and it would mean that large businesses would ultimately have to buy them up, leading to more consolidation of industries and less family-owned businesses. And I think that's one of the many negative consequences that aren't being fully talked about.
So it's a little bit more complicated than Jeff Bezos writing out a check.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Bezos, a lot of that wealth is in other businesses, in the stock market. The tax of, I think, it's 8% for Bernie under Bernie's plan.
Well, by the time you get to him, it's way up there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you're looking at the equivalent of income taxes well above 100%, and in some cases above 200%. The types of things he's investing in, and that means fewer jobs.
Adam, and we're talking to, and we'll even spend the time to investigate it. We're just going to take a couple of percent every year, and they got plenty of money. They shouldn't have to worry about it. I mean, that's going to be the response from voters who are inclined to go along with stupidity like this.
Yeah, I mean, there may be people that think like that, but I have more faith in the American people, and that we still do respect people that have built their wealth. That the Jeff Bezoses of the world have put together companies that are delivering things to our doorstep in ways that were not conceivable just several years ago, that are lowering prices and bringing us more products in many different ways, and that's something that we should look up to and aspire towards as Americans. That's what makes us more innovative and more entrepreneurial than Europe. I think that a lot of people do see that, but I think the bigger myth that's being being perpetrated by people talking about these wealth taxes is that a couple $1 trillion that they say they're going to get from this tax will cover the costs of all of the spending that's being proposed.
All the free stuff.
That's simply not the case. Bernie says he's going to get about $4 trillion from this wealth tax. That the amount of spending that he's proposing is closer to $100 trillion. And so we still have to raise taxes on middle-class Americans in order to pay for these things. And that's the big sort of thing that's out there that's not being discussed.
The big lie. 61% of voters, according to Morning Consult, but 60. Not all 61% have
this of taking large percentages of it every single year over year.
Elizabeth Warren's plan. And it's why would anybody be concerned about a simple 2% tax on the largest? And by the way, taxes were already paid on the money that was made.
Tax on the money when it was earned, and then there's additional capital gains. Additional tax on top of that, layered again on top of the tax that. This is just another layer of tax on top of many more that we have, but this is how the income tax was originally sold
right.
in the early 1900s. Oh, it's just a tax. Folks were told, but over the years, And the rate went higher and higher and higher until more than half of Americans now pay income tax, where before it was just a few % of Americans paid it. So this will evolve into a tax that is much larger than what's currently being proposed. Throughout history, they start as just a small levy on just a few of the richest people, and then they expand from there. Even like value-added taxes in Europe started as, we're just going to have a small tax to help fund a couple nice things that we like on all consumption, and now they pay what's the equivalent of sales tax rates of 20%. Over time, they just creep up, and that's ultimately the long-term problem with a lot of these proposals.
And aside from what would happen if the government did this, and what it would do to the wealth is taken away from the wealthy and given to the government to waste, and
when the resources, whatever, when they're directed by people in the private economy. When the government gets involved and says, I know how to control that money better than you do, ultimately it's wasted and that's not going to be turned into investment, which is the backbone of economic growth. It's going to be turned it's going to be turned into to free college or college paid for wealthy students. It's going to be turned into additional time off for people throughout the economy, and that ultimately doesn't contribute to wage growth as an economy, and that has real implications for how people feel, how people live their lives, and how the next generation will live.
Well, Adam, I only have about a minute left. Just what do you think the chances are of this thing? Forget about whether it could ever form a plank, I should say, in the platform of the Democrats. Something.
Elizabeth Warren is sort of surging ahead. In some of the early states, she's doing better than Biden. I think that this is where the left is headed, and it's just one piece than anything America has seen before.
Well, hey, Adam, I'm out of time. I really appreciate you clearing this up for us, and I expect them to keep talking about it for as long as they can get away with it. I don't know how long that's going to be, but I appreciate you being on.
Thanks for
This is Chris Abernethy of Abernethy and Hagerman. You don't want the government deciding what happens to your estate or how much they will take. We have the experience to help not only plan, but administer your estate properly to protect yourself. Abernethy and Hagerman, legal help that lasts a lifetime. Visit a-h.law.
You're listening to The John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Especially when he drinks it, he has stomach aches and it makes him sick. It's germs, it's not clean. Sometimes when I give it to him, it makes his tummy inflate, and then I'm forced to have him to the hospital. There's a mission, sometimes provide free care for the kids and the people in the area. They don't give medication. I still have the papers, actually, but I don't have any money to buy the medication.
How long has it been since it rained?
The crops don't give much. We're growing some. I haven't eaten yet, but I'm making some cornmeal for them.
Are there days that you've gone day after day without food?
More than 2 days.
PGH/HOPE, and the landline is 855-358-4673. That's 358-HOPE for people who want to donate to Food for the Poor. So, Anitra, talk a little bit about the food. Now, $320 or $27 per month is food for here for these people that are going so long without food?
Food for the Poor works through community leaders, ministers on the ground, because if a disaster were to hit your neighborhood, you living in that neighborhood would know the people that are most fragile. You would know the people most in need. So we work with community leaders, and they actually receive the shipments, and there's distribution. We also have in Port-au-Prince. And when I say a meal, it's not an individual serving. It's sufficient for the family unit.
Mm-hmm. So when you've been is going to end up as food for the poor and not to pay someone's salary or someone's stay in a nice hotel and across the island in Santo Domingo or something.
Very. Food for the Poor, it takes efficiency and the ability to get food to has a name on it. I needed to do the heaviest of lifting in terms of accomplishing what it needs to, because I don't have a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And I have stood and seen the benefits of your donation. I have seen families get word that they're going to receive food, and the joy that breaks out in that household to know that that burden has been lifted. But just rest assured, people that it needs to, but it also
it's so tangible how the dollar turns out.
And it's interesting because thirst are not we just are in need of your donation. A month, a one-time gift. Family of 4. They move from despair and darkness. Talked about the walk for water. Imagine giving back 6 hours of daylight. What can she accomplish in that?
Yeah.
Can she be a better parent?
Mm-hmm.
Can she start?
Very good. And once again, that's just $80 will give food for a year and water for life for one child. $160 is food for a year and water for life for one family. The phone number, it's 1-855-358-HOPE. That's 1-855-358-4673. You can do it online at theanswerpgh/hope. theanswerpgh/hope. Anitra Parmalee, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. So excited to invite you to be a part of this Day of Hope.
We're happy to help. And we're happy that you have helped by sending in money to this point. I have about a minute left here. I wanted to mention that I was talking to David Harsanyi of the Federalists in an earlier segment, our first segment, about TV ratings. And it's interesting because you would think that the viewers of CNN and MSNBC would be all fired up over impeachment and be really tuning in to find out what's happening, and watch the wishful thinking journalism that goes on at those two places. But I just noticed here that Fox just killed them. 3.3 million viewers during House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's announcement. They still down there in the toilet. So. I just wonder, as I said earlier in the show, when is somebody going to pay the price for that? Either management, people on the air, or both. But our ratings here are through the roof.
In a time we were